Hey everybody, and welcome back. Right, well, sorry about the little bit of noise from the heating, but the last couple of mornings here it's been down to freezing, 32F0C. Heavy frost, killed all of Linda's dahlias, or dahlias as they pronounce it here, before they even got a chance to bloom. They're all black and withered and done with. So I have to put the heating on in the morning, warming up during the day, but anyway. So first of all, a little apology to those people who asked about video of the trial. Obviously I couldn't take any because I was riding and I couldn't find anybody who'd even taken any pictures, so I rode reasonably well, and but we ride the trials here. Well, this particular trials, it's a gated system of scoring like I use, but if you dab you lose all your points. So you can have a great ride and get lots of points, and if you just have a little bobble and one dab near the end you lose everything, which I don't like. But anyway, so that was that, but it was fun. I got to ride with a couple of friends, and that was that. Right, so we're going to get on with this today. Oh, more subscribers, with 6,600 and something, so thank you all very much for that. Lots of comments which I'm slowly answering. So we're going to get on today, and we're going to work on that side panel. Now I talked about that the other week, so I'll explain more about that when we get to it. But also what we're going to do, as you may have noticed, there is a box here. This just came and opened it, but I haven't got anything out. I'm assuming I know what's in it because of the size of it. But it came a bit quicker than I expected. We have got in here, God, I can't even get them out of the box. Let's try this differently. Oh, here we go. Catching on the box they used to pack in. There we are. So we have got here a pair of alloy mudguards, 18-inch wheel one and a 21-inch wheel one. So that one we can't do anything with until we get the wheel, because it's got to be fitted on the wheel to make the mudguard stays. We're going to have to make stays and everything for that. But the rear one, the 18-inch one here, we can put on, because of course this is just going to fasten to the frame. So regardless of what size wheel we had in the back, the mountings would be the same, because we're going to mount to the real loop of the frame, and we're going to mount in the back here. So they're fixed. So let's have a look, see what they're like. Well packed, I'll say that for them. These came from Peter Quick BSA singles over in, I don't know, Massachusetts or somewhere. That's where I got the B50 MX pattern ones for the Yamasaki, and they were nice. So there we go, shiny. They'll need polishing up. They're sold as unpolished, but as you can see they're pretty good finish, so a little bit of time on the buffing wheel and they'll come up nicely. Right, so as I say, we're going to fit these. Nice rolled edges, nice back end. So obviously we'll have to have, sorry, I just realised how often I say so. We'll have to have a little cutout on this side for the exhaust, and a little cutout on this side for the chain. But that's going to go up there. So we'll look at that in a minute. Can't think of anything else to say, so I guess we'll get on. I'll take the silencer off to get at it. We're going to make a middle bracket, but anyway, I'll take it over to the bike now and I'll show you what we're going to do. Well, before we get around the actual mounting points, look at this. What's to be about there? This is incredibly long. Oh, there we go, the heater's gone off. So we'll have to get see? So we'll have to get down and measure how much we want cutting off. Now this mudguard's been I've dropped the chain off. I noticed in the comments that there were a couple of eagle-eyed ones amongst you who, when we were just going around the bike, actually spotted that the spring link was on the wrong way, pointing the wrong way around. So, gold star for you. Right, so this is going to go on, as I say, up like that. Yeah, that'll be a really nice mounting point at the back here. So we'll do this kick up first, so that I know exactly where it's going. Then we'll mark the back there, and we'll mark where we want it to be, and I'll see how much to cut out. And then we've all got to keep our fingers crossed that I cut the right end off and don't end up cutting off the end with the rollover on, because that would be very annoying. So let me drop it down a bit, and as I say, I'm not going to try. I was thinking maybe I would try heating it up, but I've decided against it. I'm just going to put a little cut in each side, tip that up a few degrees, and then weld it up and grind the weld out so you don't see it. I think it'll look fine like that. And then we can, as I say, measure that. Another thing actually about this, I think one person mentioned, now I've got the chain off and I can look at it, these teeth aren't brilliant, but I was also thinking to myself that since I'm planning to sell this, the way it is now, if you just bought a new drum to get a new sprocket, it wouldn't be the same size. Now the C15T, the sprocket is bolted on. I noticed bolt heads there. But of course, the engine's over a bit, so they could just possibly bolt that to there. We can't do that. So what we're going to do, this is for a couple of weeks onwards, when I take the wheel apart and we take the brake drum off, I'm going to make this so that we can have a detachable sprocket, but that it's still in the correct line with the chain. So that's to come. Let me get this real loop done. Now what I've done is I've measured along here from the front mounting, so that's 16 inches to that centre line. And then I've marked them both basically an eighth either side. Mark them down. So we're going to take, it's going to be 1/4 inch at the top, tapering down to nothing both sides. So let me cut that pie out of there, then we'll bend it up to where we want it and weld it. Now I used a hacksaw to cut these out, just because I've got it more under control. And I didn't cut them all the way through, so they should fold up alright. There we go. Oh, that's just nice, I think. And that leaves us a little gap for our weld to go in. Now I've actually brought the bike over close to the welding area because I was going to do some grinding. I don't know, can you see here? Yep, I've taken those two tabs off. So once we've got this done, we'll make a centre mounting and then we'll cut the mudguard to suit. Now I've welded them up back on, or welded them up, and smoothed the weld out a little bit, and I filled that hole up there. This will all get cleaned up a little bit better. What I also did while all that was cooling was I put a little bracket onto the battery carrier. So let me bolt the battery carrier back on and then we'll see where the mudguard wants to go. I had a thought, why not just put the mudguard in backwards and then mark where I want to cut it, and then when I go around it'll be in the right place. So that wants to go in there, about down to there. That's going to come up to there, and this wants to be cut off about, actually it's not that, oh, you know why this looks so odd? It's because of this little wheel and tyre, isn't it? But seems to be an awfully big mudguard for an 18-inch wheel. You know what, I'm going to go and check this on another wheel. Here it is on a wheel with an 18 by 325. So it would be fractionally larger, and no, it's about the right, because they never go right, so we'll use it. Now on the photograph it goes about, the end of this is about level with, well, just above the distributor actually, so I've popped that into the fins so we can get this up. And, yeah, there's not much to take off. Let me cut that bit off and see what it looks like. Well, I don't like that. Just been looking at the picture, and in the picture this edge of the mudguard is right here, where it is there. A lot of lorries today, but the wheel, which as we know is going to be a bit bigger, actually, no, it's not. Well, it's level with this bolt hole, the top of the wheel, so it is a big gap. But so I think what I will have to do, because we have the longer suspension units on, of course, which has dropped the wheel down, or change that distance, the distance from the wheel to the mudguard. So I think I'm going to have to lower that kick up. I like that as well. Or I might wait until we get the wheel and put the tyre on and look at it. Because I did notice in the picture that the mudguard isn't up against the frame. The mounting points come right down. So I've stuck a little something in to drop it there. I don't know. I don't want to start cutting and welding and all the rest of it till I'm sure. So I'll keep looking at it, and while I'm thinking about it, I'll set to and we'll have a go at this side panel. Now here's the side panel and its backing plate. Now, I had a number of people say, rather than trying to make these bigger to fit that, why don't I make that shorter? Well, there's a couple of reasons. One is that if I make this bigger and put a piece in, it's going to follow those lines. Whereas if I cut a piece out of the middle of this, see, if I weld that back up there, this piece is going to come in. So we've got that. So that's, I just don't like the idea of that. But the main thing is this center panel, right? That fits that, and it fits the oil tank on the other side. So this needs to fit that. Okay?
So what are we going to do? Well, as I say, I've already started a little bit and got that to fit around there pretty well. So it fits actually from here around to here. So what I'm going to do now, I decided I was going to try and do it in one, but I think the easiest thing to do is I'll work on it a little bit more, fan out exactly where it goes to, and then I'm going to cut this, then form that around that piece, and then we'll put a bit in here. And when we put the piece in, again, as was pointed out, we've got 2 or 3 different curves. So we're going to do it in pieces. So what we'll do is we'll cut a piece that forms the side and over there, because that's basically an easy piece to do, and the same on the other side. And then we'll make 1 or maybe even 2 pieces to fit in there, and we can use a straight edge on here to make sure we keep it right. So let me check that I've got this right, and then I'm going to mark it and we'll cut it in 2. I'll mark the line on where I'm going to cut it. Let me take that off. And I'm going to cut it where the cutting wheel. I was going to use the bandsaw, but because this is unsupported in the middle, I got a feeling that when I get here the bandsaw's not going to be working that brightly. So we'll cut it out using modern technology, yeah? Alright, well, it's done now, so we're either going to make something of it or throw it in the scrap. So let me bring you in and we'll see how things look. Now, I chose this particular point to cut it on this side because I had that, as you can see, about spot on all the way around. But this, I just couldn't get it to go in, and I think it was because of it. To go in there, it had to push the piece out here, and I couldn't quite get it to do that. So I'm going to get that right, and then we'll look at the bottom. So just out of interest, let's look at the bottom now. So the bottom, again, you see the bottom isn't too far out. I can bring that in all right, and then hopefully it'll match back up with that, sort of like that. See, we're still not going to be right because we're moving that out there, but I've got a feeling if I can, it's this front part that I really want to get right. If I can get that right, then we might have to do something like that with it. But we will get it to go together, and if not, as I say, I'll throw it in the scrap and we'll just keep searching for a proper C15 one. Now what I've done is I've tacked this. As I've worked it round, I clamped it up and tacked it. So as you can see that, and you see, yeah, that fits nicely. So now all we've got to do is get this bit to fit to there. So I'll get the old bumping things out and we'll start banging it round into shape. And these things, whoop, are almost lined up with the hole. God, it's so close. So what I might have to do is move them slightly. More and more work, I know, but hey, keeps me off the streets and it gives you something to watch on a Sunday evening, doesn't it? So let me get the other couple of dollies and things out. We'll see if we can't batter this. Oh, one other thing actually that struck me as well. Another reason why I didn't cut the inner is because of the mountings. See, that's where it mounts onto the bike. So let's see what I can do with this. Now, first thing I've got to do is to get this bit a little better shape. So do that. Try it there. Okay, what it wants actually is both of these to come in more. So we'll actually do it on that. How can we get this? There. So all I've got to do is keep working at that. I'll swing it round like that to bring the two ends further in. So let me work on that. Now for a short while I didn't think this was going to work, but I think it is. As you can see, we're about right there. This is difficult to sort of get into the camera. We're about right there, we're very close here, and I'll put them in like that. That curve is almost right. I've got a little bit of work to do there, but other than that, where are we? When that's down, that works nicely to that. It just starts to get a little high there and then it comes back in again round there. So see, that's more or less all right. That's all pretty good. Just a little high bit here. So I've got to sort of send that down and move this out a little bit. But these two are so close, but they don't quite line up, so I'll have to do something with that. I know you're all thinking it's a hell of a lot of work, why don't you just get the right one? But I wasn't doing this, I'd just be moping around the house. Or worse still, Linda would find me something to do. So yeah, I think I can work that to fit. Okay, but that's enough for today. Now I'm jumping you about a little bit here because we're back on the rear mudguard. Linda had a conference call last night, so I thought I'd come out for an hour, and the more I looked at this, the less I liked the big gap. So I've dropped the kick up down so it's just a little bit. I just didn't want the flat look. Now don't forget, we're not building a trials bike. We're building, I've said a copy, it's more like a lookalike. So I just wanted that little up there. And I also shortened the mudguard a little bit
because we're not using the great big flat plate type rear number plate holder. So that's going to go in there like that, and then we'll just have our little number plate holder on the back here. I think that just keeps the back end looking nice. Now what I have found is, you'll see I marked the centre line on this, and I know the mounting hole is on the centre line there, and I can't get them to line up because it's catching on this part of the oil tank. So what I'm going to do, I'll have to make a little cutout, but right now I'm just going to take the oil tank off so that I can get things lined up and get these rear brackets made. And then what we'll do is I can mark it out, and I've got to make cutouts, as I say, for the exhaust and the chain. So let me take the oil tank off, and then we'll mark and drill a hole for this centre mounting. Right, now taking the tank off served the purpose, because it, you know, as I mentioned, there's a little boss sticks out here that the oil tank mounts to, and similarly here, well, it actually goes inside of those bosses. So now that's exactly on the centre line. So we need a pen, there we go. Put this in on there. Okay, so now I can cross that line with that one. Let me drill a hole there. Then that gives us, we can bolt that up, just fasten this at this end, and I can make brackets. And it'll all be in situ, so it should line up nicely. I've drilled that, put a bolt in loosely, so the next thing we need to know is where these are going to go. So they're going to go, I don't know, about the line there. So now I'll put a centre line in, and we can make up some mounting brackets. Now the next thing we want is, we've got our centre line on the mudguard, so we need to have a centre line on here, and then we can keep everything right. So we will get ourselves a nice straight edge. Don't worry, that was just the oil tank falling over. Get that nice and straight. Looks good. And that on there looks good. So now you see what we'll do is I'll jam something under here to hold this up, and we know the mudguard's in exactly the right spot, and I can make up our brackets. There it is fastened in. I just got to put a piece across here. And I've just been looking at the picture again of the C15T, because you may remember that the mudguard didn't come right up to the frame. These mountings actually had this dropped about, it looks about an inch. But again, I'm pretty sure looking at the picture that the mudguard on that bike is a tighter curve, because it's dropped an inch there. Busy road again today. It's dropped an inch there, but the edge of the mudguard is right up to here, so it must be a tighter curve. So I'm going to leave it like that, because to be honest, I didn't like the way it was dropped down and had that gap. So we're just going to make our brackets to have it up against this loop here. So let me go and cut some, I think 3/4 inch strips, and we'll bend up and drill and make those brackets. Now I've made 2 brackets. So about 1/8, I guess. So I've just drilled a 5/16 hole and bent it to start with. I marked on there where I'm going to drill the hole, and then I can measure from there and mark it same amount the other side. But I made the top half of these a bit long so that I could put that on, because this has got a curve to it, but also it's curving that way. So you'll notice that that line that I've drawn, which is sort of the centre of this tube, is at an angle. So then slowly I've bent it round so that now it's fitting that. So what I'll do is I'll drill here and bolt it up, and then we'll bronze it, and I'll
before I do that, actually, I'll cut the top of that at a little bit of an angle as well to get it nice. So let me cut the top and drill that hole. So there, I've bent the little curve into that. It's bolted on, and that's nicely held in place. We're still lined up. I've marked off where the hole's going to be on the other side. So let me bronze that in. I'll check to make sure it's all still exactly straight. We'll bronze that in, and then we'll do exactly the same on the other side. Now we have our two brackets bronzed on. The front one's mounted, so there's our mudguard done. Now I'll take it and put it back on the stand, because we can look to where we do the cutouts later on. Now we can look at a couple of the cutouts. This is the mount for the oil tank, and you can see obviously there's plenty of space around it, but the problem is this part. See, it comes in, so when I try to put that on, that hits the mudguard first. So what I've done is I've marked where it goes in. So we're going to cut a piece out of there. So it goes in, there's a hole up at the top, that's there. Goes in at a slight angle. I don't think we need to take much out. Just something like that. Now also, let me drop you down. Can't quite see it from that angle, but if I put my pen, whoops, there, that's the inside. Let me go around here. If I put my pen on the inside of the pipe, you can see where it is. So what we're going to do is we're going to cut a piece out of here also. Now I might as well mark it, because we're going to take the mudguard off to do the cutting, so it'll save me having to do it twice. So what I'm going to do with the exhaust, I could try just cutting a small piece out, but the way the silencer is, see, that goes on like that, it's coming over towards here, so really we've got to go right to the edge. So what we'll do is, hold on a second, right, so what I'm going to do is, see, that actually goes inside there, so I'll use this on there, mark, 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 going round, so I know where I've got to cut this out. So let's try, see if that'll work, because it's going to be difficult to get at. I'll get the pen at an angle to make a mark. There's that there. So I'll carry on all the way around. There's one very tiny mark there, because you can't even see it properly. Mark that, and then I'll cut it out. Right, let's see what we've managed here. Now that goes through anyway. Okay, we need the tiniest bit off there. For this, it's just got to come so. That just wants cutting like that. And this one, alright, well, what's catching there, that's fitting through nicely, it's the lip. See, the mudguard comes to just inside here, so I decide how to get that. Actually, do you know something? It's virtually nothing. I'm not going to cut more off it for that. So, I wonder if I can just get in there with the... I use a little coping saw thing to do awkward parts, but I think there I can maybe just get in with the cutters. Well, let me go and get them. Right, that's what I use, because you can turn the blade round so you can get in. Of course, it's a steel blade, so it cuts aluminium. Or I use these. Now, the only thing about using cutters is it does tend to crush the rolled over bead. But if it's somewhere that doesn't really matter, see, when I'm finished, we'll dress that up and what have you. I just want to make sure everything that's supposed to go just a little gap there, so that's fine. Let me put the oil tank on. I've got to go and get the bolts for that, and we'll make sure it does fit all right. Well, the oil tank's gone on, but it is pressing a little bit, so it's pressed in at the bottom. I think what I can do just with a pair of pliers is just slightly turn about 1/4 of an inch of it inwards, because it's next to nothing. It's really annoying. But anyway, there's our rear mudguard on with those cutouts. We're going to need one cutout on the other side for the chain, but that's just sort of a straight, it's just a straight up cut. That's nothing. Getting these brackets and everything on was the main thing. So, I suppose now I can go back to the side panel. Right, I've been tapping away at this, working on it. I also slightly reduced one edge. I'm going to take you down in a minute to show you this, but as you can see, the shape is right. It follows the shape of that back plate, so it will go on nicely onto the center panel. Now let me move you around. Now, as well as getting the shape right in terms of its outline, I also had to make sure that it kept curving down. You see, it curves down all the way, so I had to make sure that that was slightly lower at every point, so that when I put the piece in, I can maintain the curve from the top part into the bottom part. So I think it's all pretty good. So what I'm going to do is tack it round the edges again, and then we'll start making this piece to go in there, or pieces. Now I've got it tacked in all the way, so the next stage is to start cutting some cardboard. As I say, what I'm going to do is I'm going to do each side, because that, it's got a little bit of a curve this way, but mostly it's round like that. So I've already cut one piece. You can see here, I think I did have to cut a little piece off the other side to get the top curve right. I had to drop it down slightly, but that's all right. So that, you see, piece is going to go in there, and if I do it in small pieces like this, I think I can just nicely make the curve, and then we'll do the same on the other side and gradually work our way around until that's in there, and then we can smooth it out with a little bit of filler if need be. So let me, I found some steel plate, the exact same thickness as this. It's 30 thou actually, well 34 I think it was, so it's a 32nd of an inch basically. So we'll start, would you look at that, just can't get the two pieces out of it. So I'll start marking this and cutting it and bending it, and I'll show you bits and pieces as we go along. Here's our first piece. Oops. Which is going to go in there like that. Now what I'm going to do is tack it along this side in quite a few places, because this has just still got to be bent that way very slightly. So I think if I get it tacked in there on that curve, then I can just knock it down a little and then tack it there. So let me do that. Well, there's the first piece done. Not the prettiest job ever, a little bit of remedial work, but the unevenness is on the outside, so it could be filled. It's all learning. You're learning, I'm learning. I'm sure some of you know how to do this and are saying, God, what's he doing? But hey, we'll get there in the end. Alright, Well, I have to admit here that I'm right on the limits of my skill set, both in terms of sheet metal work and light gauge TIG welding. That's the piece you've just seen me put in. I've also put in a piece here, so now I've got to do that. But with those two pieces in, this was rigid enough to break the little tack weld, so I've put all that back on with the centre panel. As always, you'll find with all the bikes the sheet metal work gets bent and twisted and deformed. Very often you'll take a couple of bolts out and the whole thing will just spring. When I did the aerial leader with all those huge panels, God, that took a lot of bumping and twisting to get it back together. So anyway, that's gone back on. Again, as I say, it's going to need a little bit of bumping to get it to perfect, but where are we? There we go. So as I say, I've got to weld in another couple of pieces here. I'm half thinking actually of doing it from the back. Right, this is pretty well welded, it's strong enough. I might put a piece in the back and even bronze it in, and that way I don't have to worry about putting too much heat in. And when that's in and it's skimmed off with some filler, it'll look fine. But that is on there all the way around. So I'm quite pleased with that actually, the way it's turned out. So let me get on and do this. I'm running short of time this week, so I'll go as far as I can. I'll get this back piece in probably. See, even here, a couple of times it blew into holes. And that was really low voltage and everything. But anyway, let's persevere. So I've welded the last pieces into the centre. They went a bit better actually, because on the back I was able to put a piece of copper on here and it acted as a heat sink, so the thin metal didn't melt too quickly. The green tape is there as a sort of former, so that even towards the edges I've got that little thickness of material. So let me sand this and we'll see how it comes out. Well, given the rear mudguard a bit of a polish up while I was waiting for things to dry, and let me just drop you down here. There's the side panel. I just blew it over a little with some aerosol primer just to see how well this piece matched in. I've got a little bit more sanding to do, but basically I don't think it came out too badly. And it fits. So we have a C15 side panel. Of course, what I still have to do is move the mountings on the back plate. So we'll do that next time. So that's it for now. Till I see you again. Stay safe and enjoy yourselves.